Fatima's hands shook as she fumbled with her keys, Parisian rain soaking her scarf. Behind her, a breathless neighbor clutched her sleeve. "Please, your tea trick." Fatima blinked. 48, she'd buried that skill like old wedding silver. But here, between market strolls and subway fumes, chamomile had become her quiet rebellion. Each steep was a middle finger to stress, each sip a whispered "I'm still here." Tonight's meetup buzzed with migrant aunties craving her magic. Not Fatima's hands shook as she fumbled with her scarf, its frayed edges whispering of Damascus mornings when steam from her mother's teacup curled like cursive against dawn light. Parisian rain slicked cobblestones near her apartment, mocking her clumsy steps, 48 years old and still tripping over new beginnings. Market strolls were her rebellion. Between pyramids of apricots and cheese rounds wrapped in wax paper, she practiced belonging. But stress coiled in her ribs like overcooked vermicelli, brittle and tangled. Then she spotted it, a flyer for a tea-tasting meetup, its edges ruffled by wind. Chamomile for calm, it promised. Laughable, maybe. But desperation had a way of making miracles out of small print. That first sip gathering burned her tongue ironic, given how life had already scalded her. Yet warmth pooled in her chest, an echo of childhood when that same cup had been passed between sisters, sticky with honey and secrets. Around her, strangers cradled their mugs like fragile birds, their laughter stitching a temporary home. By third meetup, her hands steadied. She learned to steep patience into each cup, to recognize how bitterness mellowed with time. Paris, with its haughty boulangeries and impatient metros, didn't soften. But Fatima did. One evening, she caught her reflection in a shop window, scarf knotted with purpose, lips quirking her own audacity. Stress hadn't vanished. It simply no longer fit like a too-tight coat. She raised her cup to glass, a silent Santé to woman who dared to steep herself in something new. Teacup, chipped from journey, held her past and present in its curve. And for now, that was enough. Fatima's hands shook as she fumbled with her apartment keys, dropping them twice before managing to unlock door. Another exhausting shift bakery left her shoulders knotted, her mind buzzing with French phrases she still couldn't pronounce right. 48, she'd imagined life in Paris would feel softer by now, less like stumbling through a maze where every corner hid another bureaucratic form or sideways glance. But then, there was Teacup. A chipped blue thing she'd found a flea market near Bastille, its delicate curves reminding her of home, not one she'd left behind, but one she was determined to build. That evening, she filled it with chamomile, steam curling like a promise. First sip, and something in her chest unclenched. 3 weeks later, she nearly spilled her entire tray of samples at a tea-tasting meetup in Montmartre, earning chuckles from a silver-haired woman named Claudette. "Newbies always hold their breath," Claudette murmured, demonstrating how to swirl cups so aroma bloomed. Woman mimicked her, inhaling deeply. Floral notes carried her back to childhood summers, her mother's laughter mingling with clinking glasses of saffron-infused charbat. Claudette, it turned out, ran a cozy tea shop and needed weekend help. By month's end, Creator was learning to distinguish bergamot from lavender, her confidence growing with each blend she mastered. Market strolls became less about survival, more about savoring, plump figs, sprigs of mint, way golden hour gilded Seines bridges. One evening, as she arranged mismatched cups for a community tasting, a young Tunisian woman lingered near door, eyes darting like Fatima's used to. Without thinking, she pushed a steaming chamomile toward her. Girl's hesitant sip turned into a slow smile. No words needed. That chipped blue cup? It wasn't just a vessel anymore. It was a bridge, between past and present, fear and belonging, one shaky breath and next. And every time Fatima lifted it to her lips, she tasted quiet triumph of roots taking hold. Fatima's hands shook as she fumbled with her keys, dropping them twice before finally unlocking her tiny apartment door. 48 years old and still jumpy over spilled milk, or in her case, spilled tea. Parisian rain-streaked window, blurring neon cafe signs below. She missed Damascus sun, but not knots in her stomach that came with it. Market strolls helped. So did chamomile, though she'd never admit it was more than habit. That first sip? Like swallowing sunlight. But tonight, steam curled from her cup untouched. A crumpled flyer lay beside it, tea-tasting meetup, newcomers welcome. Her stomach flipped. Socializing in French still felt like chewing gravel. 3 days passed. She circled a dress, walked past twice, then barged in like a woman late for a bus. Inside, mismatched teacups cluttered a long table. A dozen faces turned, curious, not cruel. Fatima clutched her bag, suddenly aware of her accent, her age, her everything. But then a woman slid a cup toward her. Try this one. No fanfare, no fuss. Just tea. First sip, bitter. Second, smoother. By third, warmth spread through her ribs. Group chatted about bergamot and lavender, but Fatima just listened, letting words wash over her. No one asked where she was from. No one cared. They were too busy debating whether honey ruined good chamomile. Weeks later, her kitchen shelf boasted 6 new blends. She still mispronounced the Esté, still got lost near Place de Vosges. But now when panic crept in, she reached for her cup, not as a crutch, but a compass. Steady hands, steady breath. Some fights weren't won with stubbornness alone. Sometimes victory was a quiet sip in a noisy world, steam rising like a middle finger to doubt. Rain or shine, Damascus or Paris, ritual held. And if her tea tasted like home? Well, that was her business. Fatima's hands shook as she fumbled with her keys, Parisian rain slicking her sleeves. Another long shift cleaning hotel rooms left her spine stiff, her mind tangled in Arabic and French, neither language feeling like home anymore. But tonight, her frayed nerves had a plan: chamomile tea, steeped strong, way her mother used to make it back in Casablanca. She'd been hoarding tea bags like secrets, sipping courage from chipped porcelain. Market strolls became scavenger hunts for perfect blend, lavender, honey, a whisper of lemon. One evening, clutching her teacup like a lifeline, an idea struck. What if others needed this too? Not just migrants, but anyone drowning in city chaos. 3 weeks later, she stood in a borrowed community hall, mismatched cups lining a folding table. A handwritten sign taped to door read stress? Sip this. Her stomach churned. Who'd come? Skeptical neighbors? Worse, no one? Then footsteps. A gray-haired woman peeked in, nose wrinkling. Tea fixes stress? Please. Fatima's pulse raced, but she poured a cup, nudging it forward. Try it. Then laugh me, woman of Claudette, as it turned out, sipped. Paused. Sipped again. Her shoulders dropped an inch. Huh. By sunset, room buzzed. A college kid snapped a pic of Fatima holding her teacup aloft, steam curling like a victory flag. By morning, image had blazed across local feeds. 48-year-old migrant's tea fix goes viral. Reporters came. So did gawkers, skeptics, even a frazzled CEO who admitted she'd forgotten how to breathe. Fatima served them all, hiding a smirk when Claudette returned with friends. Told you, she whispered, stirring honey into a fresh pot. That night, alone again, she cradled her cup. No shaking now. Paris still clattered outside, but inside, warmth spread. She'd turned a small ritual into a rebellion, one steeped in petals and guts. I found my voice, she thought. And city, ever skeptical, had finally leaned in to listen. Fatima's hands shook as she fumbled with her keys, Parisian rain slicking her sleeves. 48 and still jumpy over metro noises, she missed Damascus sun, her mother's voice, way jasmine clung to alleyways. But tonight, steam curled from a chipped teacup, her one ritual since landing here. Chamomile, golden as childhood mornings. First sip, shoulders dropped. 10th sip, she scribbled an idea on a napkin. 3 months later, her kitchen smelled like rebellion. Not loud kind, but quiet sort that brews change. She'd hosted a tea tasting for fellow transplants, Syrian cardamom, Moroccan mint, her own lavender twist, each cup a lifeline. Women clustered around her table, swapping stories instead of resumes. A lawyer turned baker, a nurse who painted murals midnight. Fatima guided them, not with speeches, but by refilling cups, nodding as steam softened edges. That teacup, once solitary, now passed like a shared secret. Sundays meant market strolls. She hunted for honey, teased vendors about overpriced figs, let her scarf flutter like a flag. Some days, stress still nipped her heels, but she'd wink her reflection in a shop window, 48 and fumbling toward fabulous, and brew another pot. Laughter became her mother tongue. Now her meetups spill into parks, strangers becoming allies over steeped petals. That first cup? It's a prop in her comedy bit, migration's messy, but my tea game? Immaculate. Steep your courage. Sip your strength. Revolution's brewing, grab a cup and stir.